So, the Nintendo Switch users are still waiting for the NBA Playgrounds patch. NBA Playgrounds, of course, came out back in May for the PC, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and the Nintendo Switch. The other platforms have been receiving the patch. Unfortunately, Switch users are still waiting for it. And if you've seen in the group, Ben, on Facebook, you're in the group, aren't you?
Yep, I
You're
am.
in the group. So you might have seen that there's obviously a lot of frustration at the moment with users waiting for the patch. Understandably, developer, CEO of Saber, Matthew Karch, obviously being very patient and very forthcoming with the information about the delay, and more information has come through. And he's as frustrated as anyone at the moment because it seems that Nintendo are actually the ones that are holding up the patch because a lot of the things that they need for the patch are not sort of on the on the just getting the quote here so that I don't put words in his mouth. Let's see. Well, patch size is an issue, and online has been functional from their end. So the patch is basically ready to go as far as Saber Interactive is concerned, but they're in the quote midst of a long process of back and forth to get small matters waived, and it's basically the things that are essential to the patch but are outside of normal Nintendo guidelines. I was just looking for the quote. Apologies for that, everyone. But basically, from a technical standpoint, they can't get the patch approved because of all the things they need to do, things from patch size to other elements of the patch that they're trying to push through, but Nintendo are kind of not really happy about for whatever reason. So the end result, Ben, is that the Playgrounds users on the Switch are still waiting for the first patch, and I can tell you from experience of having played the game without the patch and playing it with the patches that have come through, they really need that patch. And also, there's new content with the patch as well. So, yeah, I definitely feel for Switch users on this one.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, I think Nintendo had started to do well with in terms of, you know, bringing back a lot of consumers with, the Switch in a lot of ways. I mean, but I think things like this and even like some of the YouTube stuff that's happening um, where you sort of, where they want to take revenue from a lot of the YouTubers and stuff, and they give basically what they think the YouTuber earns and all that stuff from their video content and that. So I think things like that really do hurt Nintendo in a PR sense.
Yeah, and it's funny because companies like EA, of course, and hard to say without sounding like an EA fanboy, but it is true. Their policy has been pretty good towards streamers and people on YouTube
Yeah,
and such. And hey, we've been using their trademark NBA Live in our domain name for what almost a full 21 years we've been around. So without any problems. In fact, of course, they've invited us to community events and whatnot. We've had a good relationship with them. So the company that has the bad reputation is actually pretty good. And Nintendo, uh, generally thought of as being for gamers, sort of behind in some of these aspects, in some of these cultural aspects, I guess, of gaming these days.
yeah, which is disappointing. I mean, given that they've been around in terms of hardware and stuff like that, they've been around and their games as well. They've been around for so long, and basically the longest in terms of things. So
Yeah, I mean, I
you
guess.
you think they'd understand the fans and consumers and things like that, and the whole social media stuff a lot more.
Well, Nintendo's always been very prohibitive in some ways. I mean, you go back to the original Nintendo Entertainment System, or what I guess most of us call the Nintendo, although that's not its real name, it's Nintendo Entertainment System. They had rules in place for developers that they could only publish 3 games a year, or something like that.
Wow.
Which is why certain other companies found ways around it, of course, and there were unlicensed games for the Nintendo, which had to find ways to reverse engineer it so they could get around the lockout chip and everything. So Nintendo's always kind of been restrictive in that sense, and they're very protective of their first party properties. Although I suppose if I'd made the Super Mario Brothers movie, I'd be concerned about who I gave the intellectual property to as well.
Although they've given Ubisoft a license to do a Mario game, which is a Mario slash Rabbids game. So that's kind of XCOM unknown in terms of like turn-based stuff. I think it
Yeah, I mean
just kind of looks weird and that. So I don't know. Just
they have, and they licensed Mario and Zelda out to Philips back in the mid '90s because they were working with Philips on a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo, and they ended up abandoning that project and
Well, yeah, because they're actually originally working on it with PlayStation.
with Sony as well, and then that partnership fell apart, and of course, then that led to the development of the PlayStation. And Philips also made the Philips CDI, which was a well, you can check out the Angry Video Game Nerd review about that. That will tell you all you need to know about the quality of that and that particular Mario and Zelda series on that console. But yeah, I mean, Nintendo's, I guess, apart from bits like that, have always been very protective of their IP. But yeah, it looks like the situation may be because they got onto the console so early. Saber got hold of the dev kit really early and ported it very early and very quickly to the Switch. Whereas other games that are coming to the Switch later this year, like EA are doing FIFA, I think you said when we were talking about before the show, and
Yep.
and of course 2K18 is going to be on the Switch as well. I mean, they're bigger companies, Visual Concepts and EA Sports, Electronic Arts, obviously, and they're going to have more time on it, so presumably they're not going to have the same issues. But yeah, it is just unfortunate that whatever these restrictions are in place, and we got some details like patch size and everything. I guess Matthew Karsh doesn't want to go into too much detail because he's still trying to work it out with Nintendo, obviously. But yeah, it's just a shame from the gamers' point of view because ultimately they're suffering from it because they need this patch. They certainly want it. It's every day they're asking for it in the group, understandably so. And yeah, it's just not coming through because of these differences with Nintendo.